Prithvi, floor is yours, man. Go ahead. Start presenting.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, I'll get started here. So, are you guys able to see my screen okay?
Yes.
For sure.
Hey, so my name is Prithvi Reddy. I'm one of the cloud solutions architects out of Dallas in the South Central region. Today, we're going to be talking about the Azure bot service. It's just a quick overview of my background. My main area is Azure infrastructure. So I was with Fujitsu, helped migrate some bank applications to cloud. First, we always start with the service updates. I think everybody's aware of the heat map, where you can see all the products within Azure, and then the ones that have had the most updates, they bubble up at the top. I'm going to pick just one that's fairly new. It was
Hey, Prithvi, you're losing you here.
for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
we
you
don't
guys
have
still
audio.
hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. So this, are you guys still able to hear me, or no? Is it going in and out?
Sounds good.
Okay. So this new service, the Azure Bastion service, allows you to RDP and SSH over SSL. The pretty common ask from our customers. They don't want to put a public IP on a VM just to be able to RDP to it. So the Azure Bastion service allows you to connect directly to your VMs from the portal. So this is pretty useful for a lot of our customers. So I'll jump into the actual Azure bot service. Okay, so you might be wondering why a bot. So a bot is nothing but a way to communicate with basically the robot here in the middle. You can type, you can ask a question, you can tap on your phone. But the idea is to give a human-like experience, and you could be coming in through Cortana, Facebook Messenger, Skype. We didn't put Echo on here, but Bing. But any of these mediums can communicate with our bot, and we also have a lot of intelligent tools within Azure. Namely, we have Lewis, so it understands when you speak to the bot, it automatically converts your speech to text, and the bot will respond to you, right, as you see in this animation here off to the right. So that's why bots are important, and this is a lot of customers in all industries are using bots to automate a lot of their customer service, as well as if they need to search for something quickly, a bot can do that. So what is a bot? So essentially, you have your bot code. There is a RESTful API. Typically, the bot service is deployed into app service, and you deploy your code there as well. You'll have a web front end to log in and communicate with your bot. Then the bot itself, the code can talk to backend platform services. For example, in Azure, we have Azure Storage. So if there's a database of, let's say you're a gaming company and you've created a bot for trivia, so you could have Azure Storage that has all your trivia answers, and your code can go out there and query that database. Also, as I mentioned, intelligence tools such as Lewis are integrated AI tools. So you can speak to your bot and it'll automatically convert that to text. And you can train your AI models to understand certain intents. So in the example that I worked with a media company out on the West Coast, we searched Azure Media Services for specific keywords, and then returned that video back to the editor. So it helped streamline their process. And then, of course, you have the bot builder SDK. So what is the bot framework? So there are a lot of tools here. So we have the concept of bot connectors, and connectors can connect to any of these input channels. As I mentioned earlier, Skype, Bing, You could have Cortana or Amazon Echo, or a web chat. Basically somebody opening up a chat window from the web. Also could be a third party connecting to your bot. So all of this on the left-hand side represents the bot connectors. Then you actually have the bot service itself, the bot builder. It supports both Node and .NET, C#. So whichever one is your preference, you can write your code. The code can, as I mentioned earlier, query backend Azure services. So it's very easy to build RESTful websites. And why is it important? It implements standard protocols, and it also has a language understanding built in with Lewis over here. So there's a whole toolkit. Q&A is another cool feature of bot service. So you can create a question and answer. So based on common questions that your customer is asking about your product, there's answers that they will get. So this is the typical flow for a bot. So as I mentioned earlier, the bot has a web front end. So the bot's framework usually gets deployed into an app service plan. Then you set up your connectors. This is how you route your messages, manage state, how you register your bot, and then you connect those connectors to all these channels of how your end user is going to communicate with your bot. Oops, that went not very well, but we'll skip to the next slide. These are the types of activities. So everything starts with a message. So as a customer, you'll send in the general content. It's passed from the user to the bot. Then the bot basically is going to read that message, and he's going to either respond with a conversation, or he's going to just, if there isn't a message and the person is just typing, the bot's smart enough to know that they're just typing, nothing has been sent. There's also a keep alive. So if the user's just out there and is idle or hasn't said anything for the last 10 minutes, the session will be killed as well. Maybe I'll do a quick demo for you guys. How does that sound? Any questions so far? Okay. So deploying a bot service is very easy. So through the Azure portal, I'll show you how to do that first. So come here to the left, create a resource, and under AI and machine learning, there is a tab for web app bot. The web app bot will be deployed into an app service, as I mentioned earlier. Someone's talking in the background. Does somebody have a question?
Zion Williamson, Jackson Hayes, and Alexander Walker. Remember, they also moved that.
Yeah. Let me mute that. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is essentially giving the bot name. So Azure Power Lunch 2, obviously Azure Power Lunch 1 already exists. I created it earlier. Specify the location of your bot. So in this case, I'm just going to leave the default West US 2, a resource group, pretty standard stuff. This is where you can choose the bot template. As I mentioned earlier, you can use either .NET or C# .NET code. And you can also choose the SDK you want to use. SDK version 4 is the latest. We're using .NET. So the Echo bot is just very simple. You're sending a chat message to the bot and he responds. The basic bot is the one that actually has the AI and cognitive services built into it. So it has Lewis. So if you speak, it automatically converts your speech to text. So anyway, I'm going to go with the basic bot here. Best practice is to match up the region where you put Lewis with also where you deploy your bot service, and where you deploy your App Insights. So App Insights, if you guys aren't aware, it collects data and insights about the bot, like, hey, how many requests per second is it getting? Do I need to maybe scale up my app service plan later? So here you also choose your app service plan. I already have one, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that one. And then just easy as hitting create. Sorry, guys. Am I on mute, or you can still hear me, right? Okay. So the bot has been created. And so now if we go into our resource group, so here's our Azure Power Lunch bot that was just created. It's a web app bot. So this is really cool. The bot management tools are built right in. So as I mentioned earlier, the channels. So if now you wanted your bot to integrate with Skype or Cortana or any of these other channels, they're right there. So a lot of customers, at least the one that I worked with on the West Coast, they were using Slack. So we integrated directly with Slack. But all of these are built right in for connectors. This is where the Lewis integration is for speech priming. So you can train train the speech recognition. Then when you're ready, you can go in here and test test it, the web chat. So for example, you could say, "Hi, I'm learning how to use bot." And the bot should respond, "Hey, welcome to Bot Framework." And so this is built into the code for this particular bot. So it says, "Hey, like this bot can help me book a flight." So if I ask him this, book a flight from Paris to Berlin on March. Please confirm I have you traveling to Berlin from Paris on March 22nd. And you say, "Hey, it's in the past, but yeah, I still want to book a flight in the past." And so now it responds back and says, "I've booked you to Berlin from Paris too." So the other thing about this is you can also do all of your bot testing locally in Visual Studio. So let me show you the local way. Any questions so far? Does this make sense? Hopefully this is interesting. So let's create I'm going to open up an existing project that I have. Recent projects and solutions. So whenever you deploy this in .NET code, one of the key areas you want to look at is the under controllers. In this particular demo, I've just created a breakpoint. So this is the breakpoint when the message is coming in from the end user, right there, this if statement. And then I'm going to step through that, and then the bot is going to basically generate a response. In this case, it's very simple. It's going to acknowledge what the user sent. You sent such and such text, which was, and it's going to take that text and figure out how many characters it was. So it's just a really basic code example. And then it's going to take that text, that response, and then send it back to the end user. So the way you do this in Visual Studio, I know most of you guys are pretty familiar with Visual Studio, but just a quick recap, you can basically start the IIS Express. It's integrated with Microsoft Edge. So now you have a local version of your bot running. So, oops, someone talking, or someone had a question? Okay, so I have this bot running locally. So I'm doing some local development here. This is where the bot emulator comes into play. Let me close all these windows. I got a lot open. Okay, so over here, the bot framework emulator, what it allows you to do is connect to that local endpoint. So to test your bot on your machine. So in this case, I'm going to connect to, what was it, 3980 was the local host for this bot. I'm going to leave the app ID and password blank. I haven't set that, but you can set that within your app. So now it comes to this breakpoint, right? So it's waiting for input. So I'm going to say, hey, I'm testing my bot. So it's not going to actually work because it hit the breakpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and step through. So I'm going to hit continue. So now it's ready to accept input. It did hit continue, right? We have to restart the conversation. I'll say, hey, testing. Not quite. Sorry, I know it does work, but sorry, this maybe live demo is not working right now. But
I think it's
what I would have
hitting the
showed,
breakpoint. You may want to remove that.
yeah. Let me. Okay, so
Yeah.
should have
Hitting the
gone
other one.
past this. Yep. So I went back here. So now it hit the other breakpoint, which is waiting for the response. So we'll remove this breakpoint. Thanks for the disable the breakpoint. Then we'll continue. There you go. So you said basically this is a very simple example, as I mentioned earlier. Said you sent, hey, I'm testing my bot, which was 23 characters, right? So this is how you test your bot locally. One couple of other things. I've put some links in of the architecture that we built for the West Coast customer. That did not come out very well, but I'll fix this in the slide deck. But essentially how we took the users' front-end requests, we hosted the static web page on Azure Storage. Then the web page essentially called the bot framework service, which is running within Azure App Service. Bot was also smart enough to integrate with Lewis to understand what the customer was asking. This Lewis, the app service integrated also with Azure Media Services to query videos out of Video Indexer, search for that video, and then return the video back to the editor on step 6. We also used Slack as a connector because that's what that media company was using. And then over here, this block right here is really about how we deployed our code. We want to use best practices, so we used Azure DevOps and Visual Studio Code, and to deploy the Node.js aids to the bot framework service. Now you may be asking, hey, why did you put your static web page on Azure Storage? Wouldn't it have been better if you just hosted that on App Service? Absolutely, but App Service is expensive, so we had to stay within the constraints of the customer solution. So that's one of the reasons why we just used Azure Storage for static content. Finally, here's some just some of the tools that were used for development, important links. We've got the bot developer portal, the SDK, so you can learn more about the SDK for Node and as well as for .NET. The bot emulator, which I showed you, where you can set breakpoints within your code and emulate the bot locally, and then the Visual Studio project template. That's all I've got, guys. I know this is a short meeting, so I tried to go as fast as I could here. Any questions?
Couple of questions. Prithvi, first of all, I mean, what languages are available? If somebody doesn't want to use C#, what are the options?
So if someone doesn't want to use C#, yeah. So a lot of the templates are C# based, but you could use JS. That's really the other option.
Okay.
Java based.
So Node.js basically.
Yes, Node.js is the other option. I know a lot of the AI community uses Python, so bot service framework is very good with integrating with the cognitive services and artificial intelligence to pull that Python to run those Python scripts, pull those queries, and then bring it back into the bot service framework.
Okay. One other question. I mean, the example that you gave about that company, were
Mhm.
they? I mean, where was the what was being queried? I mean, was it the metadata of the videos or
So the
what the
example
content?
was, oh yeah, good question, Naveed. So Video Indexer, if everybody is not aware, what it does is it takes a video and it does speech to text for the entire video, and it also creates some intelligent metadata. So for example, if you've ever seen the Video Indexer for Satya speaking at an Ignite conference, it's able to identify that Satya is standing, he's in front of a presentation, and he's speaking to a crowd, right? So all that metadata is populated within Video Indexer. So there's two parts of a query if you're querying from a Video Indexer. You could query for a specific dialogue or something that's just said within that video, or you could query for show me the part where Satya is speaking to somebody. Let's say Satya is speaking to Scott Guthrie, right? So those are the kinds of things that you could query from that video. So it's both. To answer your question, Naveed, you could query text that was being spoken as well as contextual things, metadata that Video Indexer populated.
Thank you. That answers my
Quickly,
question.
thank you for that. I just have a question here.
Mhm.
So when one of my customer is developing a bot and they want to integrate with on-prem APIs to get some information from ITSM or Active Directory or etc. Now I know that there is an app service VNet integration, but that's in preview. We already
Mhm.
have express route connection. In this case, the only recommendation is to go to site, or in case site to site, again we are going through the internet path, right? So, what are the recommendations around here when they want to talk privately with the on-prem APIs?
So you want to connect your bot to query something on premise? Is that the use
Yes.
case?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. So I know there's not a way to deploy it within a VNet today.
Yeah.
It's deployed within an app service. I don't know if there is a way to deploy bot service as an IaaS. I'll have to
Okay.
do some
So
research on that.
basically, if you can deploy it as an app service, what you can do is you can connect that app service to a VNet, and there is a preview VNet integration available right now, or you can put an app service environment which goes
Yeah.
into a VNet, and that can host your bot service.
No, unfortunately, yeah, I'm aware of those two options, but app service environment is being too complicated because of the number of the
Yeah.
network ports being, and a lot of other complications involved to that. And
Yeah.
they don't want to use the preview feature, which is that is very good. But since that is in preview, they're going to production and they don't want to use it. So just looking for other options here. If any of your customers have got similar scenario, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so let's take that follow up. Let's see if I mean it's something that we can run it probably in a container or something, you know.
Okay.
So Prithvi, can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll find out on that. I'm not aware how to deploy it outside of app service, but I'll
Yeah,
definitely find out.
and Ravi, reach us offline, man.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, guys, any other questions?
I was just going to mention also, I've done several ACE setups at Dell, so I don't find them particularly complicated, but just like any other subnet you set up with routing, you do have to worry about some things. But if you have questions, feel free to be it's Joseph.
Cool. I think we've reached the conclusion. Are there any other questions, guys? And I'll send out the deck. There was a couple of slides I need to clean up there. They didn't come out formatting wise, but I'll send it out.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining, and join us next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Thanks, Prithvi. Thank you for the presentation, man. Very informative.
Thanks.
Happy Friday, everyone.